That is Racy this morning on DCFM 88.9 and some girls and a sudden end. I was always had a sudden end because Matthew's in the studio, we're chatting away here, all those sort of things. And with Matthew Dickerson here, I suppose we should do something about tech talk. And here's your little intro, Matt.
So what's hot and what's not in the world of technology with Matthew Dickerson on Tech Talk here on DCFM.
Morning, how are you?
I love it. I love it. Every time I hear that, Richard, I love it.
Okay. So you're in Poland last week. How was the flight home?
Yeah, flight home was good. I don't mind flying. It's pretty easy. Just sit back and do a bit of work until you get tired and have a sleep. So it's like time travel almost. You wake up and suddenly you're somewhere else. It's quite incredible. But look, Poland. One thing that really fascinated me about Poland's a bit of a tech capital. So there's a fair bit of technology around Poland, but they're still so focused on the war. And obviously in Australia, we were part of World War II and we don't walk around the streets talking about the war, but in Poland, people still walk the streets talking about the war.
Oh, do you blame them?
I know there's a little bit more of an impact on say, Warsaw than, say, in Dubbo.
Exactly.
But it's amazing, 70, 75 years later, it's still a major topic of conversation for people there.
Well, I suppose with the Poles anyway, it's such a pretty country.
Yeah.
They've been invaded by everybody since time immemorial. And they got the tripe knocked out of them in World War II, thanks very much to one Adolf Hitler.
And then their victory after World War II was to have Russia come in and take over.
Russia coming in, I was about to say, Russia coming in and taking over and turning into a communist country. So, the Poles have been bashed around literally throughout the centuries. And, they copy it. It's a beautiful country, though, isn't it?
But in your spot on there, green, I saw, we went for a fair few bike rides there and I just kept marvelling at the green, and I'd be talking to a tour guide, for example, about the green, and they didn't really have any appreciation for what we've got at the moment, which is just dirt and dust. So it's amazing. You focus on your local area more than anything else, obviously, but they'd have no idea what we're going through here in New South Wales at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. If we've got time, I might catch you. We might take a break. We might have a bit of chat about the water situation, WU being a former mayor. But we'll get on to Tech Talk first.
Absolutely,
firstly.
yep.
And how to kill your zombie apps that are destroying your phone. Now, you've got me worried about this because I read it yesterday. I thought, gosh, what have I got on my phone? And because I've got quite a lot of apps on my phone. And what happens? What's going on?
Yeah, so these zombie apps, and a bit like a zombie in the movies, the zombie apps are quite hard to kill. And often you'll just say yes, yes, yes to an app that you install. So you install an app, you want to use it for something. You don't read all the conditions and terms, and you just say yes to everything. But sometimes in some of those, what you're giving the app permission to do is sit in the background and do a few different things. Sometimes it'll be sitting in the background, chewing up some battery life, ready to spring to life whenever it can. But also it can be transmitting data. So your data plan can be chewed up and you can be thinking, oh, I haven't used a lot of data this month. I haven't been watching a lot of movies, but where's it all gone? You can start to have those zombie apps build up. And before you know it, you've got all these apps in the background. They're all downloading ads so that they can pop up on the screen or give you some reminders about some new products that you've been looking for. And so they can chew up battery and basically use up some of your data. So the advice really is go through, putting your hand up there, go through and have a look at the apps you've got on your phone. And if you haven't used it in the last couple of months, just delete it, get rid of it. And if you do want it again, you can always download those apps again. So you try and just keep a bit of a limit on those apps because they can really affect your battery life and your data.
Yeah, well, that's what I did last night. I eliminated about 5 or 6 apps. And I noticed this morning that the phone was charged up to 100%. You could leave it charging overnight with all these other apps working. I was only getting up to about 80%.
Yeah, right.
So obviously it was working.
Yeah.
And I read through all this. So off I went. And,
so now I know why you get me to do Tech Talk. You just want your own personal tech advisor.
Exactly, exactly. They know me as Richard the Chief.
I didn't say that.
No, I did. All right, this is interesting. The Rugby World Cup is sparking people upgrading their television sets.
Yeah, the greatest thing for TV manufacturers are the Olympics and then other major sporting events, whether it be Soccer World Cup, Rugby World Cup, Cricket World Cup. So in the last few months, obviously, we've had the Cricket World Cup, we've got the Rugby World Cup, we've got the Olympics next year, and we've got some other sport, grand finals, AFL, Rugby League, etc. But the amazing thing now is that there's been a shift in terms of the TVs that people are buying. So it used to be that if you bought a 42-inch plasma, that was a big screen. And now that's way gone. Now you got to the point where 50-inch was fantastic, and then 65-inch. And I remember people buying 65-inch. Wow, how do you find a wall in your house big enough to fit that on? And I know the last TV I bought 6 or 8 months ago was a 75-inch, and again my wife's going, what? That's just huge. It's taking up half the wall there. But now 75 inches is the norm. So the latest round of TV sales that are happening, mainly around some of those sporting events that I mentioned, they're mainly going for 75-inch. Occasional 85-inch TVs are being sold. They're still fairly expensive, but 75 inch is the new norm, like the 42-inch was, like the 50, like the 65. 75 inches is the standard fare when people go in looking for TVs now, which is quite incredible.
Yeah, I know. I've got a 65 and a 50, and I'm not changing.
You say that now, Richard, but it won't be long, and
yeah.
you'll be lured in. There'll be 100-inch TVs out soon.
Yeah.
Well, they're out now, but 100-inch TVs out for reasonable prices, and everything obviously gets pushed down in price. When those new ones come out, the other ones get pushed down. You've got 4K. You've even got some 8K TVs being released now.
Yeah, sure. 100-inch TV. Yeah, that's. Yeah, you need the whole living room wall for that baby.
Well, you get a sore neck from moving around the screen, watching the different parts of the
I was
screen.
going to say, yeah. Well, stick it in the garage with seats.
Yeah, that's right.
Put the car out, make it inland cinema.
Tiered seats.
Yeah, tiered seats and in indoor cinema. Sweet spot for smartwatches. What's happening there in the fitness regime with smartwatches? What are they doing?
Yeah, quite incredible what's happening in the smartwatch realm. Smartwatches are outselling traditional watches, which is quite interesting. I'm intrigued by the fact that the research shows that Rolex is still the number 2 smartwatch, and I haven't actually seen any Rolex smartwatch. So I saw those stats and I went, have they made a mistake there? So I've got to actually research that one a bit further. But Apple's certainly killing it in terms of the smartwatch arena. But it is quite fascinating that whole market segment is growing incredibly, and that's something that we're seeing more and more of. Now, I'm not saying that people are getting fitter and fitter, but they're more focused on getting fit, and they want to monitor and record. But the watches now, and it wasn't that long ago, I remember having a conversation with a gentleman in tech who said that they won't ever get past the chest strap to be able to monitor someone's heart rate. So you'll always have to have that to monitor the heart rate. And it wasn't that long after that, the watches came out that were monitoring your heart rate, and not too bad in the accuracy, but the health apps are getting quite incredible now, where you're getting some health advice from things like an Apple Watch. For example, if it detects an irregular heartbeat. Now, it's not going to go and tell you the treatment on the watch, but basically it says, go and visit your GP because you've got some irregular heartbeats. And so they're trying to monitor different ways of really monitoring your health and trying to make you healthier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is good.
I think the best way they could make you healthier is just if the watch flashed up every 5 minutes, stop eating junk. That might be the greatest benefit.
Have a sugar alert.
Yeah, that's right.
Gosh, it's hard trying not to eat sugar.
Oh,
is.
you've really got to work hard at it.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
All right. You know what story is coming next. The 3-letter word.
Oh, your favourite.
The bane of my life, NBN. What's happening with Canberra and near Canberra?
Well, this is a great community story, potentially. There's a group of people down around Canberra, Womboyne's the place, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and they said, we're not happy with the NBN, as many people, including yourself, aren't happy with the NBN, but they were on satellite. Now, satellite's terrible for latency. You've got satellites at 35,786 kilometres, I think it is, above the Earth for geostationary orbit. And so at that distance above the Earth, you've got this incredible latency. And on top of that, the bandwidth isn't fantastic. The actual amount of data you get on your plan isn't great. So they call it the NBN, but I just think they shouldn't be calling satellite NBN. So they got together and said, we're going to build our own fibre network. So they've got a community group together, they've got a consultant in, they pay them some money. They basically put this whole plan together. So it's all ready to go, and then they just needed some extra funding. Now, the state government at the last election said, we'll give you some money. They allocated $5 million, which seems like a lot more than they'll need. Yeah. But it's all stalled now because the residents have been asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, a confidentiality agreement with the state government that says they can't talk about anything to do with government policy, and they're not happy about that. So the whole thing might fall over from a legal point of view, even though they've done some great work from a technical point of view.
Yeah, quite staggering. And you talk about latency, I talk about delay, and that's the problem with the satellite phone. Hello? Yeah?
Yeah.
How are you? Yeah.
Yep, and people talking over the top of each other. You take that to a different level with not just conversations, but when you're using a computer and everything you're doing, you click and you wait because you think nothing's happening. You might click a couple more times and then it does start coming. You can't use all these wonderful things that you can use if you've got low latency. So it's a great community project, but unfortunately it might be just falling over a little bit.
Yeah, all right, Matt. Hang about, please. I do want to talk to you a little bit about some comments you made on Sky News this morning.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. It's coming up to 25 to 10 DCFM 88.9.